so many people, especially women, discredit all the effort that they do put in. They're like, oh no, like I just got the pull up or I just got this one thing. It's like, pretty sure you've been trying at this for a really long time. And then when they get it, they're instantly ready to like do the next thing really big and kind of forget like how much energy went into that to get the initial goal. And so it's like really great to be excited and motivated by those things. But it's also, I think, important to be equally motivated by like the journey part of it, as cheesy as it sounds.
Of
Like
course.
those small wins are what you're building brick by brick to like lay the foundation of the big overarching goal. Because you don't give yourself credit for those small things, like that I'm always telling clients, like get a star chart, get a sticker chart, give yourself a fucking gold star. Sorry, I dropped the F-bomb.
Welcome to the Limitless podcast, the show where women entrepreneurs become radically aware of their limiting beliefs, learn to value their worth, generate wealth, and to thrive as a magnetic brand leader. I'm your host, Jamie Ratermann, a six-figure holistic business coach. I've helped over 100 rebellious entrepreneurs master marketing, embody leadership, and say fuck it to the hustle. Let's dive in. Hello, lovelies. Welcome to another episode of the Limitless podcast. Today, we're talking about something that I think is misunderstood. Ultimately, I feel like whenever we're talking on the pod, we think about, okay, we know what to do, but the difference between knowing what to do and actually seeing the results of what we do has a lot to do with the awful word, consistency. So I have somebody that I lovingly got to meet during the COVID times, in 2020, specifically through a networking group called Second Degree Society, where we got to really get to talk about habits and what it means to create habits. And she is decidedly a health coach, a wellness practitioner that wants to make sure people understand how to build habits, how
Mhm.
to understand why we are inconsistent. And ultimately, she's like my first DM when I'm like, why can't I just keep doing this thing? She is Celeste. She's on a podcast today. She's going to share with us exactly how we can understand what it means to be consistent and how to make it work for ourselves. So, Celeste, I'm so excited to finally get you out of the DMs and onto the pod.
Thanks for bringing me out of my little cave.
Now, I gave a little introduction, but you've got a lot of cool things that you've been able to do. So please share a
Yeah.
little bit of your background with us.
Yeah, absolutely. It has been a fun ride so far, and it's not ending anytime soon. I'm Celeste Harrington. I would dub myself as like a well-being expert. I've been in the health and fitness space for 18 years now. I started coaching fitness classes at the ripe age of 16, and that's when I started lifting weights and just kind of like found my passion in health and health education. I have a degree in health ed, another degree in exercise science, and I spend a lot of time in the corporate wellness space overseeing global well-being programs. And then I also do some individual health coaching on the side to really scratch that like one-to-one coaching itch that I will always have.
So I know a couple of things about Celeste. So one, she does the best pull-ups I've ever seen. Like she's like killing it over there. She's a trainer. Like I've seen that too. And even part of it, she
Mhm.
was just telling us before we press record that you're doing semi-pro soccer now. So like being an active person is such a big part of what that is. And I feel like this probably plays a big role in how you want to help people like really create this life, but part of it is that consistency part of it. So can you
Mhm.
kind of talk about like why is consistency like just so important to, and it really like building the life that we want?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so funny too, because you imagine re-listen to this, but you're like the awful word of consistency. I'm like, why is it so awful? It might be hard, but it's like, what's going to give us the results, right? And I think it's like the language and how we speak about it that's so important. Just like how you speak about yourself, it's like how you show up in the world. And so, how you think about being consistent determines how consistent you're going to be. And I think there's a lot of myths around it, right? Like you see all your favorite health and fitness influencers, maybe they're crunching out some push-ups and or pull-ups and, adding semi-pro soccer player to their resume. But like the funny thing is like I also don't want to do these things. Like people who do these things consistently also fight motivation issues and like the self-talk of having and wanting to do it. And so I think that that's what people really get tripped up on initially, is that they think that they're going to like wake up one day and have this like urge or desire to go do the thing. But no, like every time I'm like, I'm going to the gym, I have to like drag myself there, even though I know I love it and I love working out and I love the results it gets me. There's still something we all have to battle about showing up and following through.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like I make the joke of consistency because for a lot of people, whenever it comes up, there's just this feeling of like lack of spontaneity, or that they like in general are going to have to like really push themselves. It's always going to be challenging, something along those lines. Like even to in a recent part of one of my programs, she's like, I don't like the word consistent. I don't like that. What can I use instead? And we like reworded it as devotion, like devotion to what you
Mm.
want to be able to do. And I think it's just mostly because we see, I want to reference Goggins, like David Goggins of the world, who like you just keep going even if you've torn your ACL, you like push yourself, and like this idea of like, you know, absolutely extending yourself outside of it. And I think it's just been scooped up by, let's call, like male egos, and then we assume that that's the only way to be consistent. So I love that. I love you talking about how we get to kind of remodel it for what how it works for us, or what's going to allow it to like for us to be inspired by it. But what do you like, you were just saying like a real like everyone has a little bit of difficulty, but what do you think people just really misunderstand about like like what consistency is, like what it can do for you?
Yeah, I think people need to correlate that consistency equals results. Like you want something, you're gonna have to put in some energy and effort to go get it. Otherwise, you'd have it already. Like that's just kind of how it works. And I think another thing is like surprise yourself. Like sometimes whenever you like have the least amount of energy and you think you're going to have the worst workout, and of course I'm going to use like health and fitness examples through the whole podcast because that's my space, but like fill it in with whatever thing you want to be consistent with, is like you surprise yourself, because sometimes when you expect something to be terrible, it could be your best effort and could be your best workout, and you just won't know unless you try. I kind of give my clients like this, it's not really a rule, but it's like, give yourself 5 minutes. Start the workout for 5 minutes. And if you aren't feeling better after 5 minutes, then stop. Like you don't have to keep going. And if it feels good, keep going, finish the workout. I think we put so many like rules and expectations on ourselves of like discipline and consistency looks this way. And I shared an example of like we think we have to check the box the same way every single day to be consistent. No, you just have to check the box. And maybe you check it a different way every day, but if you're checking it most days of the week, that's pretty consistent, you know? And
Totally.
so there's always these like perfectionistic ideas of what we think being consistent will be. And we really just kind of have to humble ourselves a little bit and realign and reset our expectations of what's actually achievable and be consistent at that level before your fantasy of consistency can exist.
I I love that. I think I feel like there is such a I love it, like just looking at consistency, meaning you have to be perfect,
Mm,
or assuming that everyone is perfectly happy to stay consistent. I think like
yeah.
you mentioned that in that first time through. But one thing I loved about you recently were speaking at Second Degree Society is like one thing I loved about it was that we have to model our whatever we want to be consistent at towards kind of our personality, our traits, some like even to some of our obstacles that we know we're going to run up against.
Yep.
So like I'm trying to remember all of the titles that you had. I'm going to let you do it, but like what would you kind of group people whenever you are helping them discover like how they can be consistent depending on their own personality?
Yeah. And the whole point of really grouping yourself is to help you identify with your own issues that are keeping you from being consistent, right? And plus, people love identifying as things. And I don't think it should like be confining anyone to anything, but it helps you create strategies to help you achieve the goals that you want. So there's like the striver, that's the perfectionist. the overloaded. So that's the person who's overwhelmed and like doesn't know where to start and a little scattered. The last minute maverick who's like the procrastinator. And I'm forgetting my last one. Overloaded striver. Uh,
I'm trying to remember. I think in my I was like
I'm
30%
forgetting number four. But you're all important regardless of who you are. But it's just like knowing that if you have certain tendencies, like our last minute maverick, who's like putting things off to the last minute, and then maybe they don't get to it, and they're stressing themselves out, and they think they need deadlines to like actually achieve anything. Like none of that's actually true. Like you can achieve plenty of things without deadline. You've done it many times in your life, I'm sure. You just need to identify what those are. Is then maybe you don't put your workout as the last thing in the end of the day. Maybe you become a morning exerciser because you know that if you don't do it in the morning, you're not going to get to it. Or maybe your workouts are really short. So you know that, oh, I can spend 5 minutes doing this. Right. So it's just like different strategies for each kind of personality type and quotations to help you get what you want. And I keep wanting to say like to get what you want because people, I think, set these goals and then they set these weird rules for themselves around consistency. And it's like, no, let's not forget this is what you wanted to do. Like this is the goal that you wanted to lose weight. You wanted to like change your body comp. You wanted to do a pull up. Like this is what you have to do to get that. And it's not a linear path for everyone. And so your consistency is going to look different than someone else's consistency, even for the same goal.
Absolutely, absolutely. What I love about looking at it as like a perfectionist versus an overthinker is that I think when we understand what our common hurdles are, we get to one, like you were just saying, model your schedule to fit to like prevent you from like even allowing that like negative like spiral to even occur to prevent you from getting the thing done that you promised yourself, but also to be able to be like, oh wait, like I'm not alone, that there are other people that overthink this process. I love how you're sharing it with health, and I think it's so easy to use health as a metaphor here. But this can be used in business as like posting on a regular basis, creating your creative routine, selling, like doing outreach, all of the if you do it daily, you will reach your results kind of things that happen in
Totally.
business that can be difficult. So like if I'm talking about a perfectionist, they probably have absolute difficulty posting because they put like almost adrenaline on it needing to be as good as the person that's been posting every single day for months. And I always like to use this as an example because I don't know the study by heart, but there was this study done where they did two different art classes where one of them had to turn in as much art as they possibly could during a quarter time. So like in general, the more you did, the better your grade would be. And then the other one had to do one masterpiece for the entire semester. And within that, the person like arguably that had the better skill in art was the ones that were turning in as much art as they could. So the idea of like what does it look like to be at the top of your game, to build a skill? It's not about making something so perfect the first time. It's like being able to promise yourself to be consistent to put those things in. So I think I love looking at it as like a kind of these personality traits for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's true what you're saying for sure. Like if I put as much effort into my business as I do my own health and fitness goals, like my business would be completely different.
What would doing a pull up in business look like for Celeste?
It would be a whole nother story. But it's true. I mean, I think too, it's hard because people get defeated over failures
Mhm.
and let that really set them back. And I'm sure you could see that in business 100%. And you see it in health and fitness all of the time, right? It's like these results are slow to appear, even though you feel like you're putting in all of your energy. But it's like the reminding of yourself of the end game and why you're doing it, and that, one setback or two setbacks or 10 setbacks or a million setbacks, it's it's kind of like the opposite of instant gratification, right? That win is so much sweeter because of all the energy and effort you've put in to get there. Like it actually probably wouldn't be as gratifying if it was incredibly easy to do it because we all would be doing it. And who wants to be around everyone that's doing the same thing as you? Like, I don't know anyone that wants to do that.
It's about, yeah, it's about I like the idea of delayed gratification because I think that's what makes probably habit forming really hard now, just because I think for us, there's so many things to distract us from the thing we promised ourselves to do. And even like the thought of me bringing up delayed gratification for somebody who wants to make high cash months, I'll be like, well, like let's make sure we hit this action plan repeatedly for an entire month, and like this is going to come through. The shock on their face because there's so many examples, quote unquote, that they could find online of somebody saying, I posted once, went viral and made 100K, and there's like, and then I easily grabbed this audience in a month's time, and really realizing that a lot of, and I feel like I have every right to say this. A lot of the people that are claiming one post turned it into these things, or one act, 1 month made them build this entire community, had so many failures that led up to those things that they knew what to do and it worked out for them. So like there's a sense of like of even the things that seem like overnight success are just a whole bunch of crap. Yeah, like
Yeah,
it's just not the truth.
yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say is it's not the truth because they're all like Ariana Huffington at Thrive Global has kind of coined this term of micro steps because you've taken so many micro steps to get to that one big blowout thing, right? Like if I think about someone who is trying to do a pull up, I'll just like kind of use that as an example. You've done so many gym sessions, you've like increased your protein intake, you've, chipped away day by day. And, I call this pennies in the bank. That's kind of like the equivalent of micro steps, is that every penny has added up. And then all of a sudden you get the big thing that you've been going for, whether it's the virality of a post or this pull up or whatever your goal is. It's like, no, because you've invested a penny one day or a quarter another or a dime over another, and it's all added up to this. Like that's it. Like people really discount that credit. And I think that's part of another issue with the whole idea of consistency is so many people, especially women, discredit all the effort that they do put in. They're like, oh no,
Mhm.
like I just got the pull up or I just got this one thing. It's like, pretty sure you've been trying at this for a really long time. And then when they get it, they're instantly ready to like do the next thing really big and kind of forget like how much energy went into that to get the initial goal. And so it's like really great to be excited and motivated by those things. But it's also, I think, important to be equally motivated by like the journey part of it, as cheesy as it sounds.
Of
Like
course.
those small wins are what you're building brick by brick to like lay the foundation of the big overarching goal. Because if you don't give yourself credit for those small things, like that, I'm always telling clients, like get a star chart, get a sticker chart, give yourself a fucking gold star. Sorry, I dropped the F-bomb, but
Oh
like
no,
it's
it's welcome on here. Drop it all day. Drop it
but
all day.
it's like so important because if you look at like our upbringing, especially in like the US, where we're constantly awarded with grades and medals and stickers and stars, like that kind of stops after you leave school or some sort of educational institution. I mean, maybe you get awarded annually in a corporate environment, but also if you can take those same principles and like award yourself with the days that you work out. Like I have a friend that gives herself a star every time she does one of her goals or habits, and she can look at it and do a month look back and see how many stars she's collected.
Oh my
And
gosh, yes.
that evidence for your brain is so important to show you like how consistent you truly are versus like looking back at the month where you have no evidence to lean on and you're like, oh, I didn't do anything. I'm not consistent at all. It's like, okay, well, that's not going to get you very far thinking that way about yourself.
Of
So
course.
it's
I'm
really
so
chipping away at that.
I'm so glad you brought this up though, because I honestly feel like, and I'm just gonna make a bit of a grand claim here, but like I honestly feel like if this like our schools really set us up, they should have like had a class of like, here's how to grade yourself. Like here's how to keep yourself motivated. And I feel like even too, like I've mentioned habit trackers to clients, and small things are like, oh, I never keep up with that, or oh, I never, or like, oh, that's so silly that I have to do that. And it's because of this, is that we
Mhm.
absolutely discount the small moments because we only want the big moment, or if we don't reach the exact thing that we want, then we're going to say like, oh, this none of this worked. And I think that's something that comes up so often, is that she just was literally talking to a one-on-one client earlier, and she's like, well, I've been posting every day and I'm not getting the exact sales number that I wanted. And I go like, you posted every day. Isn't that something to be proud of? Like let's just let's pause there. And now we can figure out, because you've posted up to 30 times in the last month, that we can see which ones worked and which ones didn't, and which ones get the response you want. Like the ability to have, I mean, for me, like I want to just call it data, is like being able to like, okay, we know what to do. But it's the same thing with life. Like going like, all right, well, I went to the gym in the morning and I actually felt good going. I went to the gym in the evening
Right.
and that sucked. And like it's
Yes.
being able to realize that yes, consistency for consistency's sake is enough, but it also just gives you so much of a leg up than the people who aren't.
Yep.
It's
Well,
we should learn how to grade ourselves. Like all of us should have a star
yeah.
chart until we're like 80. Who like we should have star
Yeah.
charts across our walls.
I know. And well, it's really sad too. I mean, I similarly had a one-to-one call this morning with a client talking about this as well. Like it's just it's like, and it's the validation piece, and that giving yourself that little sticker, as silly as it seems, is you're validating yourself. You're rewarding your behavior, the behavior that you want to have. And it's just, and it's not even like stacking yourself up against others either. It's just stacking yourself up against your past self who didn't do the thing. Because as soon as you change the narrative to like, I am the person that does this, like I'm the person who works out, I'm the person who makes this a priority, I'm the person who posts every day, like that is the magic, because once it becomes part of your identity, then you can learn to set boundaries around that because that's just who you are.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I feel like that's such an important part of it. I feel like there's there's much more power mentally by saying I'm going to post this many times a week, or I'm going to go to the gym this many times a week. That's one way of looking at it. Or you can be like, I am an active person,
Mm-hmm.
or I am committed to creating. Like the it seems like, yeah, it's nice to have the goal, the focus, but is like the idea of like hitting the numbers as motivating as like who you want to become in the process.
Yeah. And if it goes back to the thought model that I teach, is like that belief, I am XYZ, makes you feel a certain way, probably more determined or motivated or driven. And that's going to give you the action, like lead you to take the actions to create that result of going to the gym, of posting, right?
Mhm.
That belief is the trigger to everything else, and whatever follows ends up being the result that you want. So you can't really like put the cart before the horse. You can't put your results first. You have to believe that they're even possible to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just test this out. So let's say you have somebody who believes that they're never consistent. They
Yeah.
start things but never finish them. Let's just to make this simpler, let's say they overthink things. Like they're the type of person that feels like they need to get more information before they get started, or in general, like they don't know where to begin. It's everything's too complex and they just end up like feeling like they just can't get started. What would you say, or how would you help this person? Let's like, what would be like 3 steps you'd help them to kind of find a better, consistent path for them?
Yeah. So I would say in this case, like not being consistent is the result they're producing. And they're maybe thinking that because they don't have any evidence to prove that they are consistent. And the overthinking is coming from thinking they don't know what to do, which is so fair, especially in this industry and market where there's like advice and fads all over the place and they're always contradicting one another. So I get it if someone's overwhelmed and overthinking and overanalyzing, because it's completely fair and valid with what is out there on the internet and the TikToks of the world. So I would coach this person to just kind of put all of their thoughts out. Like, what are they over analyzing? Is it like, I don't know where to start? I don't know what to do. and to ask them, answer those questions, because those are almost like more questions than statements. And I
Mhm.
would ask them, like, well, what do you know? Or what do you think you know about yourself and your behaviors, about what it is that you enjoy? Because you know exactly what you like and don't like. Do you like running, or do you like cycling, or do you like walking, or do you like lifting weights, or do you like Zumba? Like, asking these questions to get really specific, because something else that I truly believe is if it's not enjoyable, it's not sustainable. So I would never prescribe something to someone that they absolutely despise, because why make this an insufferable experience? So starting kind of cracking open the nut of like, what do you know? What has worked in the past? And just start kind of building this mound of things that they are certain and sure of. And then all of a sudden feed that back to them. Like, here are all the things you do know about yourself. So if you do know that you like Zumba, and in the past you liked this instructor and this gym and this class or whatever it is that you liked following this person, then let's think about their program and maybe purchase one of their programs or follow something that they're doing. Let's put it on a habit tracker. Say you're going to commit to a class a week. Let's think about how you feel after that class. Like, that's what's going to keep you motivated to go back, because you know it's going to feel amazing. And maybe you'll meet an accountability buddy or a friend that's going to help you go. Like, the thing is like opening up the path to possibility too, because a lot of us ask ourselves, like this person in particular, especially who's overthinking, is like, well, what if? And it's very much negative. Like, what if I can't do this? Or what if I don't know what I'm doing? Or what if I can't stick to it? It's like, well, let's flip it on its head. And like, what if it works out? What if you like the class? What if you do stick to it? And so
Love
you
that.
kind of just give them this other path of thought that your brain's not really paying attention to, because it's in its little primal lizard brain state and only wants to think about safety and security and sameness and status quo. But you're trying to do something completely different that's going to be out of your comfort zone. So, of course, you're going to question yourself. So, looking back, knowing that the questioning is 100% natural and okay, knowing that there's mixed messaging in this world, and really trying to understand what you do enjoy and follow that path. Commit to what you like doing, give yourself a low bar or standard to follow at first, commit to that one time a week. And then if you do one time a week for a couple of weeks, add a second day, then you build from there, and just like let the snowball roll, because that's what's going to really open up this path to consistency. And like, please note how slow that process is. Like, it is not like, great, tomorrow we're going to go an hour long Zumba, and the next day we're going to do another class, and we're going to overcommit, and then you're overwhelmed again, and then you're overthinking it, and then you're doubting yourself. So you have to give yourself a chance to win. Like, I was telling a client this today. He was asked, he was like, well, this just feels, he's like, is this goal? It was like a protein goal. He's like, well, is this even enough? It was 100 grams. I was like, no, 100 grams is not enough. But you know what's enough? Why it's enough? Because once you do it enough times, it's going to feel really easy. And then I'm going to push you to add 10 more grams for a few weeks. And once you do that enough, it's going to feel easy. I'm going to have you push it another 10 more grams. It's these slow little inches that you gain that build confidence. And that's regardless of personality type.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I have so many things to say, but I feel like there's a sense of, I mean, our mind and our bodies are absolutely like miraculous in a lot of these ways, like of being able to think about there's a reason why we can't go from 0 to 100. There's a
Mm-hmm.
reason why, because like it would cause havoc to our stress levels. It would absolutely like in its own way. Like, let's say like I decide to go to the gym for 3 hours. I'm pushing myself in all the weights. I'm doing all of these things. Like, there's a reason why my body like is like wrecked the next day. Like, we don't want you to keep going because like this is
Mm-hmm.
we're not prepared. You haven't built us up to do this. And the same thing applies to somebody who, let's say they've never made a sale and they
Ah,
want to make 20K in a month. And I'm
there
like,
we go.
there's a sense of like you've got to build up your tolerance of rejection. You got to build up your tolerance of doing things without the results. Like, you got to build it up and find your groove before those things happen. And we can get into woo-woo talk, and people love to talk about quantum leaps. And the reason why people are able to make leaps is that they've built a foundation of things that their body, their mind is ready to receive and hold. And I think that this applies to health, this applies to business equally. Like going like if I want to be, you know, having a ton of protein every day, if I want to do pull-ups, I'm not going to be able to just go from 0 to 100. My body's going to tell me, okay, I'm a little stronger today. Keep going. I'm a little stronger.
Yeah.
Today. I'm ready to go. So the ability to not only accept, but love the slow burn, I think is a skill all to itself.
It is a skill. It 100% is a skill in practicing your patience and your determination and your like unrelenting. Like you have to just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Like that when I coach live classes at the gym, that's like one of my cues all the time is like one rep at a time, one foot in front of the other. Like you just do one thing at a time and you keep doing it and all of a sudden it's done. Like it's you're right. And laughing at the quantum leap things. I'm like, there is no quantum leaping in health and fitness. It is science. And there you just don't go from one thing to another without some steps in between. Um, yeah. So it's
I feel like I want to school you on it because there's a whole conversation around like people who are making tons of money and then
oh totally.
they
I
lose
see
it
it.
just at the same time because
Uh-huh.
they weren't prepared to receive it. And it's the same thing. Like your
Yeah.
body's just more of a barrier. It's not going to let you go from like being a like somebody who can't run a mile to running a marathon. Like there's a
Yeah.
little bit of that.
No, there is none of that. There's There's none of that. But I think people do see, I'm thinking of this one friend in particular who has just gotten in an insane shape and has been known to not be that fit his entire life. And all of a sudden, in his mid to late 30s, he's like all of a sudden this shredded person. I'll admit, I'm like looking at this person online, like, who are you? But and people are asking him for advice online and he'll like post, he's like, dude, I just paid attention to what I was eating and worked out. Like it's not that hard. And I was like, but like for real, that is like what it takes. He's like, there is no quantum leaping. There is no like magic thing. I just followed a plan.
But I think people love to hate it because
They do.
the idea of like, oh, I've just got to do the thing over and over. Like even I'll admit me, same for me where I'm going like, I must be missing something. I must be
Yeah.
missing this one thing that somebody else
Uh-huh.
must have. And then it just comes down to like, no, you just keep going. Like you
You know
don't
that
stop. You just keep going.
yeah, you know that cartoon of like the little guy picking at the rock and the diamonds right here and they quit?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what's missing is like a few more picks and then you're there, right? Like
Right.
I feel like that goes back to like think about resolution time, like in January, where everyone forgot the statistic off the top of my head, but it's like very high percentage, like 70% plus. I think it's like closer to 80 or 90. Like it's very, very, very high of those who set a goal stop after 2 weeks. Like they just stop picking at the rock. And it's like, but the thing, the diamond is right there. Like, just keep going. And I think that's like going back to the tune of consistency is like, you don't have to pick the rock every day. Like, and also maybe you picked the wrong rock to pick at. Like, maybe you're the person who picked weightlifting when you like Zumba. Like, don't pick weightlifting then just because someone's telling you to. Like, yes, resistance training is amazing for you. And if you don't enjoy it, don't don't do things you don't enjoy if it's not going to get you closer to your goal.
Yeah, that cartoon even it's simple, but it's true. It's always true.
Right.
I feel like so if we're walking through this, step one, understand your obstacles. Like just understand what's been the
Yeah,
obstacle of what's been making you inconsistent. No matter what it is. It could be a mindset, it could be you don't have the tools. I mean, like
totally.
whatever it might be.
A
Start
question you can
to
ask yourself, I'll interject briefly, just like when I do like initial consultations, a question you can ask yourself is, why don't you have this yet?
yeah.
If you're like, oh, what are my obstacles? People don't understand like what that means. It's like, okay, why haven't you achieved the goal yet? And that's they're going to come with all those things. Like, I don't have the time. I don't have the resources. I don't like, yeah, that's where all that comes spewing out.
Yeah, beautiful. And like be able to like write it out so you can start to poke holes in it. Because like
Mm-hmm.
let's start to really find is this true? Is it or is it not true? Like trying to be able to fly. I like that. Install like a new belief. Like make sure that it's not just goals, but it's also like who are you becoming by hitting this consistently? So like having some
Mm-hmm.
type of motivational affirmation, would you say? Like, would that be like a step two of sorts, like after you set the goal?
Yeah, I would look at like all the obstacles or barriers or reasons why you haven't achieved your goal yet, and exactly poke holes at it by thinking or asking yourself, like, is this true? Is there a way around this? Like, that's something else to think about is there's more than one way to do just about everything. And so if you look at your list, come up with three ways to get around or overcome each of those reasons of why you haven't achieved your goal. And that's going to crack open the belief.
Yeah, I love that. And then set an achievable goal that you can build on, but you must set an achievable goal for where you currently are at.
Yeah, and I'll dig into that one another layer. This is from Michaela Davis. I'm not sure if you know her from SDS as well. She's a habit queen,
Mhm.
MPH from Yale, I believe, super smart woman. She said to set your goals or habits or whatever it is on your busiest or worst day. So, like, are you going to run an hour on your busiest day? No, but can you like do a lap around your block? Probably. And so that's what your achievable goal should be.
Beautiful. I love that. Yeah, like what if on when you have no time, supposedly, what do you
Mhm.
have time for? That
Exactly.
idea. I love
Yep.
that. Okay. And then be able to choose a method that you know you're going to enjoy.
Mhm.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. What other things or habits or traits do people who are consistent like normally have? You already mentioned accountability buddy. So like in general, the coaching industry is built on the fact that we really aren't like trying to change our habits and behaviors is very hard to do alone. So I
Mhm.
think that we're just throwing that out there. That's the big reason why trainers, coaches, all the things are so supportive. Accountability buddy, somebody else that's invested in changing this in themselves is such a great one. But what other small traits or characteristics, even if you want to add to what I mentioned, like is something that helps people stay consistent?
Yeah, so all three things that you already mentioned, understanding why you haven't achieved it, kind of breaking through some of those barriers, finding things that you enjoy, dispelling myths that you've created for yourself, the star chart and sticker chart. So creating proof and evidence and like building on that you do these things consistently. Um, really understanding your own, if you're like one of the perfectionists in the world, like what standard you think you're going to achieve, and kind of coming down off of that a little bit and going back to that more achievable, bite-sized, penny in the bank investment, micro stepped investment. Um, those are the biggest really things that you can do to achieve your goal. But I think the next biggest one is like, okay, someone has all these tools, it can get started. But when they come up against a first failure or when they get too busy or have a bad day and don't follow through, is how you pick yourself back up from that. Because a lot of people will let that overcome or overwhelm everything they've already achieved and they'll stop. And
Ooh, I love that.
so what is the thing that you need that's going to keep you going? And this is where people would say like self-compassion. And I think that self-compassion is so misunderstood as well, where people think it's like very soft and very cuddly and very generous. And it's like actually self-compassion is your best friend in that that's their tone. So if you were talking to your best friend about the situation of you stopping, what would your best friend tell you? And sometimes it's like a harsh truth, but it's out of love. And
Yeah,
that is what self compassion is. And
I
so
love that.
if it's like, okay, girlfriend, pick yourself up, put your tennis shoes on, fill your water bottle, and let's go. That is
Yeah,
self compassion, right? It's not rude. It's not beating yourself up. It's in your best interest. And she's telling the truth.
I
And
love that.
so that is what I would say, like, you have everything to set you up for success. But when you hit that roadblock, or you get sick, or you don't feel motivated, like tune in to that internal like best friend, or even call the friend and be like, hey, here's what I'm dealing with. I know this is silly, but I need you to tell me to like what I should do. Like, should I take a resting, keep resting, or like, should I follow through or get back on the horse? Whatever. I have air quotes, of like, and it's without being self-deprecating, right? It's not telling you get your shit together or like kick your ass into gear. Like, those are not nice things to say to yourself. And you don't want to be a mean boot camp instructor because you want to enjoy it, right?
Or
So that's my
I
last.
love I love the idea of like having it be the voice of your best friend. I like just the idea of like because like if I were someone's best friend and they like are dropping off of like, girl, you're just in your feels. You're just in your emotions. Like go for a walk. Like we'll be fine.
Mhm.
Like this isn't as big as you're making it to be. Or if for any instance, like, oh wow, this is feeling hard to you. Let's talk about why you're feeling this way. Like there's a sense of like really understanding. Like if you had your best friend, let's like your blunt best friend, the one that will tell you if you should like that you don't look as good in that outfit, but you look in the good
Right.
in the other one. Like the one that's true and honest with you. I think I agree with you because I feel like compassion is always like just relax. Today you don't have
Right.
to do it. Like it's all
Yes.
like it's almost like compassion is synonymous in some ways with I don't know, like dropping it completely or something.
Yes. 100%. I think there's a lot of confusion with that. I'm like, no, no, no. Self-compassion is like the best thing for you whenever you need it. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's to do the thing.
Mhm. Yeah,
Even you
absolutely.
don't feel like it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to take that because I really love that. I also, when you were talking about like hitting it every day, I reminded me of there's just so many examples of creating just momentum and
Mhm.
like having that on display. Now we've talked about the star chart. I think even too, I read a book once that like it was like Jerry Seinfeld would always like he would write a joke and he would have it and like he'd only allow himself to miss a day and he like saw it over years of time and how that just allowed like it's when you're unmotivated and you look and you're able to have some type of thing you can look at that goes you haven't missed a day in
Right.
3 months, keep going, or oh you missed a day, don't let it be two, like keep going
Yes.
back, like that idea of having some type of visual way to do that I think is so helpful. But I just wanted to mention having some way to celebrate those things is really important just because again like for me consistency is about showing up when the results aren't there, like
Mhm.
when it's not happening, and that is
Yeah.
a really hard pill for people to swallow is that we want it to happen tomorrow. Like I think there's the joke of like you like do squat day and then you like try to look at your butt in the mirror and it's like where is it? Like the idea of like how can you allow like the process of doing it be
Mhm.
what excites you?
Yeah.
Because if that happens, the outcome's going to happen. It's just guaranteed in the process. Like if you enjoy the process, you're going to get the outcome. If you don't enjoy the process, either you're going to push yourself to get hurt, you're going to overload yourself, you're going to get
Yeah.
burnout. Like there's so much to be said about what seems like a trite statement at this point, but like enjoying the process is what gets you the results.
Yeah. And believing it's coming. Like I was thinking of like this visual as you're talking about the squat and the butt building. It's like the butt is coming, like it's just behind you. Literally, it's behind
I just
you.
like the joke of the idea like the butt is on its way. Like,
Yeah, it's
watch out
on
for the
its
butt.
way. It's coming. The crazy thing is that people don't realize is when you take steps to achieve your goal, you're ahead of it. The goal is behind you. It's trying to catch up.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I
Like
love
people are like, no, I'm trying to get there. It's like you are, you are on the way. And it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah. Oh, so true. Like a lot of what we're talking about is just it's things like people repeat and manifestation and goal
Totally.
setting. Like there's just like I feel like I like to talk about creativity and problem solving being like core leadership skills, but consistency truly is the thing. So
Mhm.
I could talk about it for days,
I
for
know. Me
ages.
too.
But I wanted in general to ask you a question here because like you are on my podcast Limitless. And one thing I like to ask my guests is what does being limitless mean to you? And I would love to hear how you feel that applies to what you do and how you help people.
I love this question. It's so sweet. Um, you know, I think we limit ourselves. And so if we can unwrap the like negative self-talk and self-criticism and self-deprecation that we have, that is like what's going to create limitless. And that's what it does for me. Like it's so
Mm.
freeing to not have negative self-talk with you. It's like a chip on your shoulder, right? Or like self-deprecating, like, it's like no easy. That's why I started like saying, no, I'm playing semi-pro soccer. Because I was like, no, like it's not a big deal. I'm like, no, no, like this is a big commitment. I'm making time for this. Like that is part of being limitless, is like owning, stepping into it, not not discrediting. And I think that that's what comes, if I think about consistency, that's what lets you be consistent. It's like, no, I'm doing this thing. This is what I'm
Yeah.
doing.
I love that. Like I think I love what you're saying. Like it's like owning your story, owning that you're
Yeah,
going to make things happen, but just like owning your wins. Like I mean,
100%.
when you said you were semi-pro soccer player, I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Let me hear more about this. Like that's amazing. And I think that I love hearing that.
Right. And
Being
people are
limitless.
rooting for you.
Good.
That's the
Yeah.
thing is like you let people root for you and people are like craving like a little bit of validation a lot of the times. And so it's like, no, just come out, be like, oh no, I'm committing to this goal. I'm like going to the gym and working on my pull up. Like, dang, like people are stoked for you, right? They're
Yeah.
not, no one's like letting you down. Like that is becoming limitless, right? Like you're like, no, I have zero limitations on like what I'm capable of doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the idea of sharing it, knowing that like you are inspiring other people, even in what you might consider to be small, but it's worthy of
Yeah.
sharing.
Work in progress always.
Love it. Well, you help people do this all the time, so please share how we can connect with you after the pod.
Yeah, absolutely. My website is just my name, celesteharrington.com. Instagram is Celeste double underscore Harrington, and you'll find all the goods there.
Tell us about Consistency Cure because I've heard
The
so much about it.
club, the Consistency Club
Oh, sorry. Right.
is a health and fitness membership program. I work full time, so I can't always serve everyone in a one-to-one capacity as much as I would love to. So I created a membership as weekly programming if you want to work out from home or the gym, and then you still get a check-in with me. So it's very, very involved where I help you find overcome those barriers, right? So like, hey, I'm having a really hard time with this protein goal or this water habit or this sleep issue. I help you overcome it with some custom and bespoke suggestions. So I can help you reach your goals. And there's lots of habit tracking in there that are custom to you based on that check-in. So it's a pretty stinking good, close to custom. It is almost as custom as it gets in the market right now for health and fitness. So you get a first week on me. Love for anyone to join.
Amazing. We'll make sure to drop in the show notes and the can we get the quiz that I took as
Oh yeah, we can put the quiz in there. It's
like a 4 question or 5 question quiz.
it's
It's really,
super
really
short
quick. Yeah.
and then it pops out whether you're the striver, the overloaded, the last minute maverick, or oh my gosh, I think it's
Or the
overwhelmed. I think it's overwhelmed, but it's overloaded also. Oh, it's the uncertain. Or
you got
uncertain. I'm so sorry. I
it.
forgot about you. That's actually the example we had too today was the
Yeah, go
uncertain
figure.
person. But it'll pop out some custom suggestions based on your personality type. So
Amazing. We'll make sure to drop both of those into the show notes. Celeste, thank you so much for chatting all about consistency with us today. It was so helpful.
yeah, thanks for having me, Jamie.